It's 5:30 p.m. and I'd like to call the July 14th, 2021 meeting of the Richland 2 School Board of Trustees to order. May I please have a motion to go into executive session?
Madam Chair, I was prepared, but it looks like I've gotten locked out. Give me a second to read exactly what needs to be read. Are you pulled up? Let me just read it anyways. Do you know? Madam
Ms. Mackey?
For the purpose of employment recommendations, releases, and in-district transfers.
May I have a second? Seconded by Mr. Manning. The motion has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Okay, let's call for the vote. Is everybody on electronically, or do we just need to do a hand vote? We do a hand vote at this time. Motion carries 6-0. Move to executive session. Good evening. It's 6 o'clock. May I please have a motion to please come out of executive session?
Madam Chair,
Dr. Scott?
I make a motion that we adjourn executive session at 5:34 p.m.
Thank you, Dr. Scott. Do I have a second? Mr. Manning, thank you. Okay. Any discussion? If not, we'll take a vote. Is everyone ready to vote electronically, or do we need to do it by hand? Dr. Franklin, are you ready for us? You want to do it by hand, or you got us? She got us, okay. Is everybody ready? Yeah, okay.
I don't see where I got a pop-up, but I'm voting in the affirmative. Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Mackey. Motion carries 6-0. Okay, we're going to move on to our first item, which is I'm sorry, let me get this right. 3.1, our inspirational moment and Pledge of Allegiance. Ms. Mackey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to share a few thoughts for this evening. A new car can cost thousands of dollars. A new house can cost hundreds of thousands. A new pair of shoes from the tens to the hundreds, depending on a good sale. A new suit, a dress from $29.99 to hundreds of dollars, again, contingent upon that good sale. A new computer, hundreds of dollars. Bus fare, rates begin around $1 and up. A loaf of bread can be about $3 and up, depending on the brand. Groceries, depending on the barrenness of one's pantry, hundreds of dollars. The cost of a quickie lunch, perhaps $5, 4 for $4, perhaps $15. The price of an upscale dinner, perhaps $40, $60 and up, depending on who's got the check. The price of a newspaper subscription, $20 and up. The price of a utility bill, hundreds of dollars, depending on the heat. The price of a smile, a kind word, a kind deed, holding a door, a kind gesture, a thoughtful remark, compassion, helpfulness, sympathy, empathy, doing unto others as you'd have them do unto you, $0.00. The return on that investment, infinitesimal, the gift that keep on giving. If you please join me as we do the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you, Ms. Mackey, for that inspirational moment. We appreciate you for doing that for us. We are going to move on to 5.1, the approval of the consent agenda. May I have a motion to... Oh, sorry, okay, this is my very first night as your brand new chair. So charge it to my head and not my heart. If there are some errors that are made tonight, just bear with us. I will get this, I promise. Okay, so let's go back. 4.1, approval of the agenda.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Ms. Mackey.
I move to approve the July 14th, 2021 regular board meeting.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, let's call for the vote.
I think I got kicked out, but I'm voting in the affirmative, and I'm going to try to log back in now.
You're getting kicked out a lot, Ms. Mackey. What's going on?
Messing up, apparently.
Okay, motion passes 5 in the affirmative, 1 in the negative. Okay, moving on to 5.1, approval of the consent agenda. May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Madam Chair,
Ms. Agostini,
I'd like to split the consent agenda, please. And I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes from the previous meeting.
okay. There has been a motion on the floor. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, let's take any discussion.
Just an explanation as to why it's split and why we're only approving the minutes at this time. Thank you so much. You asked for discussion, and that was my question. Thank you, Madam
Okay.
Chair.
Okay, all right. Any other discussion?
Madam Chair,
Dr. Scott?
I have a question.
Yes.
Ms. Agostini, when you said split the agenda, can you be,
Excuse me,
Share
when
board
you break up the
presentation.
consent agenda, if any board member, according to Robert's rules, wants the consent agenda broken up, it can be broken up. There needs to be no vote.
okay. So you're not splitting it, removing something out, you're just asking?
No, well, right now, I made a motion to approve
Okay,
the meeting minutes.
okay.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay, we'll take a vote as to whether we will split the consent agenda.
No, that's not accurate.
Right.
Okay. Okay. Okay, we'll make a vote to approve the minutes from the previous meeting.
I pressed it. Did you not get my 5? Did it pop up? I attempted to vote in the affirmative, Dr. Franklin. Thank you. Thanks.
Okay, motion passes 6-0. May I please have a motion for 5.3 for a motion for employment recommendation releases and in-district transfers?
Madam Chair,
Mr. Manning,
I make a motion that we accept the administration's recommendations for employment recommendations, releases, and in-district transfers.
thank you. Do I have a second? Who is that, Ms. McFadden? Oh, that was Dr. Scott? Seconded by Dr. Scott. Any discussion?
Madam Chair,
Ms. Agostini?
I would like to pull page 4, employee number 36, simply because for me, I would need to abstain from this person's hiring from it seems to be, I asked questions earlier today, or actually yesterday, I submitted them. Gratefully, I did get answers, but the answers that I received compared to the job description, at a quick glance, because I just received the job description, seem inconsistent. And I am not sure how this person will work with the board and administration. So I would like to remove that person from this vote and vote on them separately.
Okay, point of order. Dr. Davis, I need a point of order on this. What's the clarity? How do we proceed with that?
We already have one motion on the floor, the motion to approve approve 5.3 employment recommendations and district transfers. We're at a discussion now. So
Right.
there's already a motion. We have to vote on the first motion that has been made. Then there can be, if that motion fails, then we can vote. A second motion can be made, and then we would vote on that.
Gotcha. Okay.
Madam Chair, can I not amend the motion that's made?
I believe Dr. Davis is correct. Once the motion has been discussed on the floor, we have to dismiss that first item first, and then if it fails, then we can, I think, address yours, if I'm not correct. Is that not
Once it's
correct?
discussed, I thought that, Mr. Manning, I think you could contribute to this.
Yeah, Dr. Davis, if I'm not mistaken, I believe Ms. Agostini can make a secondary motion to my motion requesting that item be pulled. or
I
voted on
believe if the motion is germane to your motion, so your motion is to vote on all of the individuals. She's asking to pull one individual from that motion to vote on that person separately. So you can, if she's making a friendly amendment or a friendly amendment to your motion, you can agree to the friendly amendment, or we can vote on the acceptance of that secondary motion. But she just can't attach her motion to your motion.
because it alters it too much. You're correct.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm not, the friendly amendment, we've tried to go away from friendly amendments to motions because it gets confusing, so I'm gonna leave my motion as is.
Okay, thank you. So we will vote on the original motion to approve the employment recommendation releases and in-district transfers. Ms. Agostini, if that happens to fail, then we will address your motion after that. So at this time, we will call for the vote. Okay, we need to do by a hand vote. Dr. Franklin said we need to do a hand vote. All in favor of the original motion, raise your hand. Okay. Did you get that, Dr. Franklin? Okay. It is 5.
You gotta do any opposed.
Oh, I'm sorry. Any opposed? Any opposed?
It's abstention is the next
Okay.
one.
Okay. Any abstain? Okay. Motion passes. Okay. Moving on to 6.1, public participation. Okay, I believe we have some here. Let me do a point of order before we do that. Before we begin, I want to remind our speakers that each person is limited to 3 minutes, and that our meetings are streamed live and recorded. Speakers must refrain from using inappropriate language and engage in any form of personal abuse or attack, and must not refer to any student or employee by name. Questions asked during the public participation typically will be referred to a staff member for a response at a later time. And I think we needed to read that because I wanted to kind of make it kind of clear. I think sometimes people feel like when they come to public participation, we don't answer your questions, because that's not the time that we answer your questions. But we are here, we are concerned, we do want to hear what you have to say, and then we will have somebody address that with you accordingly, okay? So our first person, I think, is Crystal, okay, Mason Cup, did I say that? Mason Cup, thank you.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
I have something prepared to read, but first I wanted to say that what I've prepared does not reflect on exactly what the county is doing so much as I'm standing as a voice for many parents that are just concerned. And so I'll just start. Martin Luther King said that darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. We need to be that light, lifting up our students with love and unity in our schools. But instead, what I see, especially in the language, that we're tearing them down by promoting hatred and division. We're not opposed to teaching truthful history. We are opposed to labeling people as oppressors and victims solely based on the colors of their skin. Parents, this is for you. Beware of terms like social justice, diversity, equity, inclusion. Those are inherent good things that are being used to disguise a biased political agenda, and sadly, even in some Christian schools. For example, a social justice lesson that was entitled My Identity, My Bias, that would require my son, 3 of them, to examine his white privilege and male privilege. And the very next slide in that presentation talks about oppression. I got that from a school in North Carolina, CMS, that was handing out to all the teachers to present. That means they take the matrix of oppression, I have that right here, and the matrix of oppression declares that if your skin is white, you are automatically an oppressor. That means the 2 million Union soldiers who fought the Civil War to end slavery were oppressors. How is that teaching accurate history? Instead of creating a healthy and safe space for respectful debate, our schools should be becoming an indoctrination camp and a breeding ground for hatred and division. Just this week, I spoke to 2 parents whose children were bullied for not being bisexual, bullied for not accepting that they must identify with who they want to have sex with. They were bullied because they believed that people were worth much more than their desires. Does that sound like unity and love? Parents, it's our job to teach our children morality, values, and where their identity comes from. So I'd like to ask that the school board stop toxic curriculum from ever entering, and if it has, to get it out. For God is not a God of confusion, but a God of peace. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Neil, I'm going to butcher this name again. Mexico.
You might have a lot of practice.
I know. Okay, well, that's fine. You're always welcome.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to speak again. I just had a couple of things I wanted to go over. So one was recently, I think, I'm sure you are probably aware that the State Superintendent of Education sent out a memo about masks on buses and how that was not a requirement in South Carolina. So at our last meeting, I know it was discussed, and it was said that students would still have to wear masks. So I just wanted to highlight that point because in this letter, it specifically says that, if that happens, and funding may be withheld. So I'm hoping that we'll hear today as we go over that you will affirm that masks will not be required on buses in compliance with that memo. Second item I wanted to ask a question about, so this will obviously be something that we could follow up with, is on the Richland 2 district website, it talks about how this month the reopening schools plan will be reviewed. And then as part of that, under ESSER funding, right, that has to go out for public comment. And so would like to know how that public comment, that period is going to be handled, because as a taxpayer in District 2, I have never once had the opportunity to comment on those. So I'm a little worried that our community is not being fully represented during that parental public comment period, right? It's only going to people who have an association, a student in the district. And we would like to have our students in the district, and hopefully that happens. But I haven't had the opportunity. Older folks in the community, younger folks haven't had an opportunity to comment on these plans and provide feedback. So I think that's maybe a little blind spot when we're sending surveys out to just, students based on their Richland 2 email address. So something to consider, if you would, because I'd love to have an opportunity to review that reopening plan, and I know many other parents would as well. And then the last thing I want just to mention is, in the absence of facts, people often can import their own ideas and beliefs into something. And so when I look at the district's website and list of priorities, and I see anti-racism work as one of the priorities, there's a lot of stuff tied up in that. I mean, in the news, you hear about it, and it's going back and forth. So my suggestion is, what's the concrete plan? What does that mean? Like if we have details of what that means within the schools, what does that mean for curriculum? What does that mean for teacher training? What does that mean for students? If you remove that vacuum of information and we're provided with, hey, this is what we're going to do, here's the benefits, then I think it will calm everyone down and give us a sense of just the idea that we're going in the right direction with that. So some type of plan, practical implementation would be very helpful. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Nicole Bennett.
Hello.
Hello.
So I just came up with everything that I wanted to say out there, so it may be all over the place, but so we get a lot of emails from the district, SMORE, Blackboard, phone calls and everything. I'm one of those parents, I try to stay on top of things, but also there's life. I missed the emails from Libby Roof about the choice program. And not only did I miss that, I missed that that choice 2 was engulfing or including the virtual program. So I didn't get to take the surveys that I usually take about everything else, about my child wanted to be, whether or not I wanted my child to be in the virtual program. So I didn't get to get my child's name on the list. I called here, spoke to the receptionist. I spoke to you, Ms. Manigault.
No names, please.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
Okay. Well, I spoke to 2 people in the district office, and I was then informed that what the setup was going to be for virtual learning. All I want is to be able to still have the choice to send my child to virtual class, because we got a new variant out here. Children under 12 can't be immunized. There's going to be more kids in the classroom, unvaccinated, and that makes me nervous. You know, as much as I want my child to attend school, it's not going to be a health risk for him to do so. What I really just want is for it I was reading the email and it said that the virtual learning platform was not sustainable. Well, I think that it is, because you have a whole lot of parents on the wait list that want their kids to go virtual, and then you have some teachers who want to teach virtually too. So I don't see what the problem is with making it happen, but there to be more opportunity or more spaces available for children to be virtual. So yeah, that's what I want. And I haven't registered my child yet or whatever, because I want to know if that list can be opened up for virtual learning, because that's what I would prefer for my child. And I know a lot of other parents do too. That's why the wait list is so long.
You have about 27 seconds.
Oh, can we get some purifiers in the classroom? And since a lot of the windows can't open, got these new fancy windows and these new nice schools, can we get some purification machines in the classrooms? Because for an anxious parent like me, that would be something that would ease my mind too if I had to send my child back to school.
Okay. Thank you. We appreciate all our public participation this evening, and thank you for all of your comments. As we said, they will be addressed at a later time. Now moving on to 7.0, voting on executive session items. 7.1. Diploma petition. May I have a motion for the diploma petition?
Madam Chair,
Ms. Agostini.
I move to approve the diploma request for student number 1.
Do I have a second? Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. Dr. Franklin, we need your hand. You got it? Okay. Motion passes 6-0. Okay. Item number 7.2, student admission request into the district adult education program. Do I have a motion?
Madam Chair,
Ms. Agostini?
I move to approve the student admission request into the district's adult education program for student number 1.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Dr. Scott, thank you for seconding that. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. The vote passes at 6-0. 7.3, there's no need for 7.3. 8.0, old business action requested. 8.1, policy revision approval. Do I have a motion?
Madam Chair,
Mr. Manning?
I make a motion that we approve policies, policy revision approval for IMG service animals, recoded as ACE, IMG animals in schools, which is a new policy, and policy revision ADD face coverings.
Second.
Okay, it had properly been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Madam Chair?
Dr. Scott?
Yes. I'd like to discuss more on the face mask covering policy. And are we going to revise that policy before we actually approve it? Because I think it states that we will still allow students to wear masks on the bus. Is that what we're thinking about, Dr. Davis, or are we going to amend that policy?
Thank you, Dr. Scott. That's 10-4. We have Dr. Franklin coming before us, but yes, the thought of the administration is to be in compliance with the information that we've received regarding wearing of face coverings and masks on school buses, to ask or strongly encourage, but not make it mandatory, to put us in line with what is the expectations from the State Department. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Did you have any questions for Dr. Franklin? Dr. Franklin, you want to explain?
No, I think we will
For
have to
clarity.
amend that policy. And I think Mr. Manning lumped all 3 policies together. So we need
He
to make
did.
an amendment to that policy with what Dr. Franklin is
No,
going to
I think,
present.
no, I think he said that, Dr. Davis, is it already amended? Or let's let Ms. Franklin explain it, then we'll go back, okay? All right.
School buses are included in the presidential order that requires face coverings to be worn on public transportation conveyances. The State Department of Education has exercised its discretion and is no longer enforcing the face covering requirement. So there's district recommendation that we take a look at the policy proposal and remove the language requiring the wearing of face coverings on school buses, which will be the first paragraph on page 1. And that we also remove the discipline section on page 2, because the discipline section was in tandem to the requirement of the face covering requirement for the bus.
Okay.
Madam Chair?
Ms.
All right,
Agostini?
I need clarity. So, Mr. Manning, you put all 3 of these in there?
I did. I believe you can make a friendly, or not a friendly amendment. You can make a secondary motion to remove the paragraph that was stated by Dr. Franklin for that specific policy. Just because they're lumped together doesn't mean you can't make a secondary motion that affects one of the policies.
Well, I'd like to pull policy ADD and discuss that separately.
I mean, I made a motion, we can discuss it.
Well,
we
just, I'm not clear on what Dr. Franklin said, because I thought that you'd only made the motion for the first 2. So I need to, I'm sorry, rehear what she said for policy ADD. I didn't realize that we were on it. And I'm trying to understand what exactly it is that you're asking to have removed for us to approve it.
Okay, so to be consistent with what the State Department of Education has put out to school districts last week, district administration is recommending to remove the first paragraph, the paragraph that says in accordance with the federal requirement, Presidential Executive Order 13998, for face coverings to be worn while on public transportation conveyances. Face coverings are required to be worn while boarding, utilizing, and deboarding buses. We're recommending to remove that paragraph from the policy, as well as on page 2, the discipline section, because that is in tandem with the requirement for the wearing of face coverings. So what will remain in the policy is the health advisory information and the definitions.
Thank you. So now we're looking for an amendment to your motion. I would like to amend the motion for policy ADD to remove the first paragraph in accordance with federal requirement, Presidential Executive Order 13998, for face coverings to be worn while on public transportation conveyances. Face coverings are required to be worn while boarding, utilizing, and deboarding buses. To remove that along with the discipline section of this policy.
That's correct.
Yes.
Correct.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Okay, at this time, we'll take the vote. Dr. Franklin, I know we have to get you time to put all that up there.
And Madam Chair, just to be clear, we're voting on the secondary motion, right? Just
The
by
second-
itself?
The
Okay.
secondary motion by itself. I can't hear you, Dr. Franklin. Yes.
Consideration section, there's also mentioning of buses, and we have Ms. Agostini include that in her motion as well.
Ms. Agostini, would you like to include that in your motion also?
Yeah, I think we've already made the motion and seconded, so we might need to come back and make that another secondary motion.
Okay.
Sorry, Madam Chair.
No, you're the former chair. We got this, hand in hand. Working together. Okay. Okay. Is the motion correct, Ms. Agostini?
Well, that's the synopsis of it. That's not the exact motion, but yeah, I mean,
Madam-
that's a summary.
Madam Chair, this says to approve the policy, the amendment, the secondary motion was to amend the policy.
To amend the policy, correct.
That's why I
Thank
was
you.
asking Ms. Agostini, was her motion correct
So I
up
think
there?
my original motion was approval of all three. We're amending the policy. The approval will be addressed in the primary motion.
Okay, is that correct now, Ms. Agostini?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, we'll call for the vote.
Bless you.
Bless you. Motion passes 6-0. Okay. So now I think we have to go back to the other motion.
Madam Chair, I think because there was an additional amendment that the administration says that we need to do to get in line with what the board's desire is, we need another. I think
Oh,
there's
for
gonna
the
need to be
other, for the buses, okay, so we need a motion for the, read it out loud, Libby.
A motion to amend policy ADD to remove also the additional considerations section of policy ADD.
Okay, I need a motion for that additional.
Madam Chair, so moved according to Ms. Ruth's language.
Thank you, Ms. Mackey. Is there a second?
Madam Chair,
Dr. Scott?
so move is not a motion. We need the
Say
motion
so
repeated.
moved, Dr. Elkins. I said according to her language, so it will be Ms. Ruth's language.
We need the language repeated from the board level.
Dr. Franklin, if you could type the motion according to Ms. Ruth's language, that would be great. Thank you so much.
I make a motion to extract the additional considerations of students who should not be required to wear face coverings while on buses, those who have trouble breathing, those unable to remove the covering without assistance, and/or those with special health care or educational needs as determined by an individualized education program, IEP, 504 accommodation plan, or an individual student health care plan, or by a medical doctor to be extracted.
Ms. McFadden, I appreciate it, so I'll need to remove, there's actually a motion on the floor, so if you're gonna offer a motion, then I would be happy to remove my motion,
Okay.
Madam Chair, and then you can submit your motion, Ms.
that's-
McFadden. Thank you so much.
No problem.
Thank you, Ms. Mackey. Ms. McFadden, we'll accept your are you making that motion?
Yes, I was just trying
Okay.
to,
Has Ms. McFadden's motion been seconded?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion on Ms. McFadden's motion? Y'all have me all over the place tonight.
Madam Chair, I have a question.
Yes.
And maybe I'm looking at the wrong thing, but additional considerations on what I'm looking at is already crossed off to be removed.
Let's look at it.
On my copy.
It's at the bottom of page 1.
Dr. Franklin, has that been already crossed out, or is it?
No, ma'am, it was crossed out in a previous section of the policy and inserted in that section.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
forgive me, I do
So
see
it's
it now.
So it was reinserted?
It was
in this
reinserted up at the
section?
top.
Okay, so we do
I'm
need-
sorry.
That's fine, Ms. Agostini, thank you. Thank you for trying to catch that. So we do still need the motion, correct?
Yes.
Was the motion seconded?
I seconded it.
Okay, Ms. Mackey seconded the motion. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, at this time, we'll call for the vote. Motion passes 6-0. Okay. Now, we go back to the other motion. Mr. Manning,
So Madam Chair, my original motion still stands. However, it is now amended by the two secondary motions that were made. So it would be approval of the three policies with the other motions included. So-
okay,
So it's already been put out there and seconded, so.
okay. Any discussion on that?
Madam Chair,
Ms. Agostini?
just a question for clarification. With all of that is removed and the Department of Education no longer requiring it, why do we not rescind this policy?
Ms. Agostini, I'm not sure why we're not going to rescind it, but we are voting it down, so it's basically the same thing as rescinding it. So I think at this time, let's deal with the motion that we have passed, that we're doing, and this,
I guess that would be a question for administration and why they're recommending it, that we're,
you can ask that question if you'd like.
yeah, I am asking that question.
Again, you can ask that question, we can get that answered for you.
At this time, my recommendation to the board is not to rescind the policy. We don't know what the standards will be
Right.
3 months from now or a year from now. If we rescind the policy, we'll have to come back and then reinstate the policy. If there's some additional changes from the CDC, the WHO, or even DHEC. And so we are keeping the statement in that we're asking that face shields or face coverings be is highly encouraged, but it's not recommended. But we don't know what that status is going to look like in the next couple of months. So we're just making the modifications to the policy to fit the current times, and we're asking for the flexibility that we may need if conditions should change.
Thank you, Dr. Davis.
Thank you, Dr. Davis, for that explanation. I really appreciate it.
Okay, any other discussion?
Madam Chair, I'd like to.
Mr. Manning?
Thank you. Also point out that it does have some additional language in here about harassment for anyone wearing face masks or face coverings, and addresses that issue as well. It's the flexibility to meet current CDC guidelines, as Dr. Davis previously stated. So I think there's definitely some that this is still worthwhile.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Manning. Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, let's take the vote. Okay, motion passes 6-0. Okay, moving on to 9.0, new business, no action requested. Dr. Davis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, members of the board, and to our public that's with us this evening here in person, and to those of our family members and public that are viewing at home. This is the opportunity or the time of our board meeting where we celebrate and recognize the accomplishments of members of our school district and our community. So we're going to start off with the superintendent highlights, and tonight we'll begin the highlights with information about the upcoming vaccine clinic. Richland 2 is partnering with Prism Health to offer a COVID-19 vaccine clinic for our students who are 12 and older, as well as for other individuals eligible for vaccine who live in the same household with a Richland 2 student. Prism Health nurses will administer the Pfizer vaccine in a drive-through clinic at R2I2 on July the 24th from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. The second dose will be given on August the 14th, and students will receive free school supplies when they come back for their second dose on August the 14th. Visit our website for information on how to sign up for a time for the first clinic on July the 24th. The Richland 2 Education Foundation recently announced the recipients of several college scholarships that it awards to high school seniors in the district. The Stephen W. Hefner Scholarship, the Calvin Chip Jackson Scholarship, and the Deborah W. Ham Scholarship are worth a total of $11,500. The Stephen W. Hefner Scholarship was established to honor the legacy of our former Richland 2 Superintendent, Dr. Stephen Hefner. This year, Mariana Richardson, a senior at Westwood High School, received the $5,000 scholarship. Mariana plans to attend Wofford College in the fall and minor in music and major in chemistry pre-medicine. The Calvin Chip Jackson Scholarship was established in the memory of former Richland 2 school board member and Richland County Councilman Chip Jackson. Mr. Jackson passed away unexpectedly in August 2020. Ridgeview High School senior Yasmin Lattimore is the first recipient of the $3,500 scholarship. Yasmin will be attending Albany State University in the fall. The Deborah W. Ham Scholarship was established to honor the legacy of the former Richland 2 superintendent. Blythewood High School's Phoebe Fisher was awarded the $3,000 scholarship. Phoebe will be joining the 2021 University of South Carolina freshman class as a presidential scholar. Additional scholarships awarded through the Richland 2 Education Foundation were Service Solutions Scholarships worth $2,000 each. Those went to Brantley Daniel of Blythewood High School, Aaron Gainey of Richland Northeast High School, and Spandana, I'm gonna get this right, and Spandana and Corey, Samuel Bishton, Madeline Dissinger, and Taylor Hamilton Hankins of Spring Valley High School. Libby's so proud of me. I see her over there. I got the name right. I hope I did. Congratulations to Polo Road Elementary School Principal Dr. Cassandra Bozier and her team. Polo Road Elementary School has been named a 2021 Blue Ribbon Beacon School. The Blue Ribbon process requires community engagement to build on strengths and overcome challenges. Rice Creek Elementary School first grade teacher Caitlin Jones has had an outstanding first year of teaching filled with multiple honors and recognitions. She began the 2021 school year as a co-recipient of the 2020 Donald H. Graves Award for Excellence in the teaching of writing. She was recognized as the Richland 2 Rookie Teacher of the Block for the month of January, and now she has been named the Richland 2 Rookie Teacher of the Year. Mary Beth Gowes is the Richland 2 Support Staff Person of the Year. She currently works as the Student Data Coordinator and Registrar at Lake Carolina Elementary Upper Campus. Since coming to work for the district 29 years ago, Ms. Gowes has filled a long list of positions that includes being a health room assistant, media assistant, receptionist, teacher assistant, and attendant secretary. Lately, she has been on a winning streak, collecting several top awards. The National Association of Education Office Professionals selected her as its 2021 Oliver T. Ritchie Office Professional of the Year. Prior to winning the national award, Ms. Gowes was named the Richland County and South Carolina Office Professional of the Year for 2021. The R2 Ready to Read places thousands of books in the personal libraries of students in pre-K to second grade in 16 of our elementary schools. Schools are selected based on their percentage of ESOL students and or their pupils in poverty percentages. Each student received 2 books. Books donated that were new or in excellent condition and on 3rd to 5th grade reading levels were also provided to schools with book vending machines equaling approximately 300 books. Additionally, about 1,500 books on higher reading levels were donated to Richland Northeast High School and International Baccalaureate World School, who in turn donated them to 2 schools in the Philippines, reaching students globally. This year, a total of 11,644 books were donated to students as part of the R2 Ready to Read. Through the Ready to Read program, Richland 2 has given out almost 80,000 books since 2015. The district is currently operating on a 4-day work week. During this time period, schools, centers, and administrative offices will be open to the public from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through Thursday. The 5-day work week resumes on Monday, August the 2nd. Madam Chair and members of the board and to our community, that concludes the superintendent highlights for the July 14th, 2021 Richland 2 School Board meeting. Thank you.
Dr. Davis, thank you for such a wonderful report. As you see in our district, we're doing great things in this district. 80,000 books. That is amazing and fantastic. We're so proud of this district. Any other discussion about that? Anybody else?
Madam Chair, I have a question.
Yes.
All right, thank you. And Dr. Davis, I'm glad to see that we're offering the vaccine clinic to our students. Do we have an estimate about how many students we're expecting to see?
The last report I had, I think we were at about 200 students that are, it's gone up since then. 300 now. So real-time numbers, 300 at this moment.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or discussion? Okay. Thank you, Dr. Davis. Thank you for such a wonderful report, and thank you for your leadership. At this time, we'll move on to 9.2, Grading Task Force, Dr. Davis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, members of the board, we will present you with a report and give information regarding our grading task force. Presenting that report will be Mr. Arthur Newton and Ms. Penny Atkinson, our executive directors for elementary education and secondary education. Mr. Newton and Ms. Atkinson.
Well, the last time I was here, I didn't need these glasses, so let's see how this works. Good evening, Madam Chair,
Good evening.
distinguished board members, Dr. Davis. This evening, we're going to provide you with a brief presentation regarding the work of our task forces, which they have done over the past 5 months. As you all are well aware, due to growth, changing of administrators at various levels over the years, adding new teachers, we have developed some inconsistencies with our grading practices. Additionally, and most importantly, we want to be aligned to our equity policy, meaning reviewing procedures and practices to ensure that we are not creating institutional barriers for our students. So our purpose was to analyze the current grading practices at the elementary and secondary levels to ensure consistent grading practices and expectations are equitable moving forward for all students. This process actually began with a conversation with our principals. We discussed with our principals our intentions, our expectations, and we also put this in writing to them as we started to develop our teams. We created a district task force that is extremely diverse regarding roles, in which we'll get into, and our elementary schools mirrored that. We wanted to make sure that we had the opinion and the perspective of all of our stakeholders within our schools and community. The secondary school teams did the exact same things. We also had student groups. At the elementary level, our student leaders, which are our 4th and 5th grade students, they were our student groups. And because elementary schools, we have 24 schools and centers, we were divided into clusters so that we could have dialogue. And all of our meetings were held virtually, and we utilized, the technology to engage our students and stakeholders. We use Jamboards to record our data, our qualitative data, to make sure that we could keep that as well. And of course, Ms. Atkinson will talk more about the teacher focus group at the secondary level. And then in late May, we sent out a survey to our parents as well as to our students, all of our 4th and 5th grade students, and of course, our secondary students as well. We will continue this upcoming school year to analyze the data and information from school teams. We will work our district task force to make final recommendations. We'll share the process and the final recommendation with different stakeholder groups. And of course, the ultimate goal is to implement the recommendations next school year, meaning, well, I guess 22-23.
Good evening. As Mr. Newton shared with you, our task force for the district level was extremely diverse, and we asked our schools to mimic that process as well, reaching out to students, teachers, parents, business members of the community, and of course, members of the administration. So each of our schools, elementary and secondary, had a school grading team as well. As Mr. Newton shared with you, student focus groups for 4th and 5th graders handled the elementary questions. We had a middle school group of students and a high school group of students. We asked each principal to please have representation from all of their student groups. It was a very diverse group for middle and high, as well as elementary. For secondary, we did have 2 teacher focus groups, a little different than elementary because the secondary course offerings are so different from elementary. So we wanted to make sure that we heard from advanced placement teachers, grade level content teachers, CATE teachers, fine arts teachers. So we had a middle school group of teachers and a high school group of teachers as well that we heard from. And then elementary had a district task force and secondary had a district task force. So we tried to hear as many voices as we could last winter.
And this is just a quick snapshot of the folks who are part of our district task force. As you can see, we have principals, assistant principals, we have parents, we have upper elementary teachers as well as primary teacher. We have coordinators and directors and folks from SPED, ESOL. And again, our school teams mirrored our diversity on our task force.
And here you can see the members of the secondary district task force. I have 2 co-chairs, Dr. Brenda Mack-Foxworth representing the high school principals and Mr. Sean Bishton representing the middle school principals. And then of course you see the list of students, parents, and a diverse group of faculty and staff members that worked alongside myself and our 2 co-chairs.
These were the major topics that we discussed. This was not a top-down, decision. Our schools got an opportunity to provide input regarding the topics that we were going to cover. And of course, there's some subtopics underneath some of those topics. But the driving force or the guiding force behind our discussions were the purpose of grading. Anytime we got bogged down, we reflect back on the purpose of grading. But we also talked about, of course, the minimum number of grades per 9 weeks. Should it be 10? Should it be 12 per content area? Should it be 15? We want to make sure that we had that consistency. Redo expectations. You know, teachers have very strong beliefs, as well as administrators. And, you know, what should those redo expectations be? Should it be that you give them the opportunity of 2 days, 1 day? And so we were looking for some consistency there. And for elementary related arts, we're talking art, PE, music. Should kids get, you know, participation grades, or does she get graded for mastery? So we have some great discussions there. Additionally, the grading floor for an F, should it be a 0? Should it be 50? Should we give our kids an opportunity to, if they make a horrible grade or whatever happens, to, you know, make a comeback? Also, homework expectations. Should homework be graded? Should it not be graded? And our kids, they really had some strong opinions about that. Believe it or not, 4th and 5th graders will shock you. Extra credit, you know, some folks do not believe in extra credit. Some do. So those were some other things. And weighting, believe it or not, in the elementary level, grades are weighted, and they're weighted differently in different places. Or should we have equivalent grading, meaning all of the assignments count the same, regardless if it's a summative assessment or formative assessment. And communication. How often should we update parent portal? How often should we send home graded papers? So those were our topics of discussion. And I want to note that all of these topics were not discussed at once. We laid out a timeline for our schools and for our committees so that we could have some in-depth discussions prior to meeting with the schools. Just like the secondary, we had chairs and co-chairs, and we divided up the duties. But in addition to that, we had small work groups outside of our regular meetings that would go interview administrators, interview teachers to get more feedback. And so when we came back to our meetings, that we could have, you know, some real discussion, look at the trends and the patterns that we're seeing.
And as you can see, the secondary topics were very similar to the elementary topics. And this is not an exhaustive list because, as Mr. Newton said, once we got into discussing the redo expectations, some other subtopics came up. But these were our major topics of discussion. And as Mr. Newton shared, our students have a lot of strong opinions on these topics. And it was very eye-opening to meet with them and to hear their thoughts. And they greatly appreciated the opportunity to be involved in this conversation, because as we shared with them, we have pretty much finished getting our grades as adults. They are the ones that are receiving interim reports, test grades back, projects, tests. So they had a lot of very strong opinions, and we greatly appreciated their input along with all of our other various members of our discussion groups.
And we wanted to make sure that we had the latest research to help drive our discussions. So prior to any of our meetings, we provided 3 research-based articles that related to our discussion. We share those with our schools, with all of our committees, and even with our students. And so, again, folks could reflect back on the conversations from those different articles there, which provided great insight. Here we had, obviously I mentioned before, we surveyed our parents. For elementary, we had 2 different surveys because K and 1 students do not get numerical grades. They have a standards-based report card, okay? And second grade students do not get a grade for every content area. They receive a numerical grade for ELA and mathematics. Science and social studies are integrated. And of course, 3rd through 5th grade students, they do receive all numerical grades. But the survey, we only utilize the electronic survey because of COVID. However, our families and stakeholders could access the surveys on their cell phones as well. So you didn't necessarily need a computer. But these are some of the results from the K2. And this is the results from our 3-5 parent surveys that we administered.
Of course, just like elementary, we surveyed our secondary parents in grades 6 through 12. We did use the same survey. Dr. John Arnold helped us design that survey, and we felt like the questions were appropriate for middle and high school parents, teachers, and students. So here you see the breakdown of the number of responses we had from the parent group, along with teachers, staff, administrators. And you will notice if you add up those percentages, it becomes more than 100%. Some folks are in more than one category. We have parents that are teachers. We have parents that are administrators. And we were not able to tease those numbers out so you would get exactly 100%. So that's why that goes over 100%.
And just continuing with the survey, all of our 4th and 5th grade students got an opportunity to respond to the survey questions. After discussion with our senior leadership, some of our senior leadership members, we decided that it was appropriate, and we modified the survey some for 4th and 5th grade students to take the survey. And these are the results from that survey.
And again, here you see the breakdown of the number of students that responded per grade. And again, we used the same questions in grades 6 through 12 because we felt like they were very appropriate questions that any of our middle school and high school students could answer those.
And what's next?
For the fall, we are planning to continue to meet with our district task force team, and meeting with them, we're going to analyze the survey data in depth because again, we did not issue that survey until May. We plan to continue to analyze all of our school team notes. Each school submitted back to the district task force team those topics with their feedback, their ideas, and we, as a district task force team, elementary and secondary, will take the next several months and go through all of those notes and all of that data. And our plan is to have recommendations to senior staff to review late first semester. And then, of course, once those recommendations are approved, then of course we will take them through our district recommendations to our district councils, faculty advisory, parent advisory, and our classified staff advisory council as well. Expected outcomes. What do we expect to happen from all of this work? We want to implement consistent grading practices across the district for all students. We also want to make sure that we communicate the consistent grading practices to all of our stakeholders, students, parents, community members, teachers, everyone that is a member of our Richland 2 family. We want to make sure they understand what our grading practices are.
At this time, questions?
Madam Chair.
Okay. Thank you for that report. Before I open the floor up to our board members for questions, I just wanted to ask 2 things real quick. The first thing I wanted to know was, were there any Kate teachers inclusive of this? And the reason that I'm asking about Kate teachers is because when you're talking about the grading, the number of grades, a lot of Kate assignments are project-based. So they may not have the individual grades that a regular classroom content area classroom teacher may have. So I wanted to know, were we inclusive of the Kate teachers? Because it would be bad to put, like, say you had to have 10 grades in a Kate course, but it actually may be a project-based type situation. So did you include Kate teachers in your survey questions?
Yes, ma'am. We had members from R2I2 on our district task force.
Okay.
And then R2I2 also had a specific school team as well. And then when all of the secondary high schools were doing their school team, they were encouraged to have members of teachers from each of the departments.
Okay, because I know my Kate teachers would appreciate me saying that for them. And then the other aspect that I wanted to look at real quick before I open it up to the board was the grading floor. I'm just going to say this on a personal note, because I am an educator. I think that we really need to, I'm not telling you what to do, just putting it out there, that having a 0 as a floor grade is very hard for children to overcome. So that definitely needs to be something that we try not to, in my opinion, that we try to avoid having 0 as a base grade because you don't want to encourage kids because it takes like about 3 100s to overcome 1 0. So I just thought I'd throw that out there.
Well, and you'll be happy to know that we don't have that for
Okay.
elementary, but we do have that up for discussion to look at what it should actually be.
Okay,
We
and I
currently-
like the consistency because I know
Yes.
that there were
Mhm.
some inconsistencies
Yes,
amongst the
ma'am.
district. Thank you.
Mhm.
Now I will open up any board discussion, any questions? Anybody?
Madam,
Uh,
Ch-
Mi-
Madam
okay.
Chair?
Ms. Agostini.
Thank you. So to be clear, we haven't seen the survey data. You're waiting to go through it. This is just the presentation of who participated in your survey. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And then for the purpose, help me understand, to ensure consistent grading practices and expectations are equitable.
For example, if you have a teacher on a grade level, and speaking of elementary here, one teacher may give extra credit work where the other teacher doesn't. And so a child could, have a higher average. Then we start looking at awards day, honor roll, and things of that nature. One kid may not have had the same opportunity to earn a grade as the other child.
Got it. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Madam
Dr.
Chair.
Scott?
I want to say thank you so much because this grading task force is so needed. So first of all, I want to commend you guys for that and the team. Just a few questions that I have on the what's next plan. When I look at the number of surveys returned, that's pretty low for the amount of students, teachers, and parents that we have in this district. So on the what's next, can you guys probably put your heads together and come up with some type of incentive or a longer period of time that the teachers, students, or parents can respond? Because that number is extremely low for the faculty and staff that we have here, parents. So maybe you can give me some feedback on that.
Dr. Scott, that's a great question, and as Mr. Newton and I have been looking at the data, we came to that same conclusion. We have not decided, will we reissue the same survey? Will that skew the data? But we look forward to working with the Accountability and Research Department to make a good decision there.
Any other questions?
Madam Chair.
Ms. Mackey?
Mr. Newton, Ms. Atkinson, thank you for that deep dive. The topic is important to keep an eye on equity and trying to, I appreciate that. Question, with regard, and I think I know the answer, but with regard to continuing to analyze the survey data and the stakeholders that you have, it's a diverse body of people, diverse in their experiences and what they do, and I appreciate that. The pool you selected as well. As survey results are analyzed and you move forward, I'm assuming it's not just going to be a one-time thing, that you will consistently monitor results like that as you re-administer the survey, because situations change in schools as we've seen from the pandemic, and I know it's a very fluid thing at times. So I presume that ongoing efforts to survey the results you get will be ongoing, not just a one-time thing, right?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate your presentation. Quite
Thank you.
thorough.
Any other questions? Okay. Well, thank you so much. We appreciate you all. That we're excited about hearing how this comes out for the grading procedure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. 9.3. Report professional early planning. Dr. Davis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, members of the board, we also have Ms. Atkinson who will present the information regarding the redesign of high school professional learning time, which we also known as PEP, Professional Early Planning. Ms. Atkinson.
Madam Chair, Dr. Davis, members of the board, good evening. It's good to see you all again.
Yeah, no.
As Dr. Davis shared with you, tonight's report is going to be looking at PEP and redesigning our PEP time. And just as the first slide is a very quick review slide, what is PEP? It stands for Professional Early Learning. It occurs on Wednesdays, pretty much every Wednesday at the high school, and it was implemented 20 years ago. Of course, I have not been in Richland too that long, but we were given a history lesson as to how PEP was originated and how it has changed over the years. What we have discovered over the last several years, and especially during the pandemic, is it is time, since PEP is 20 years old, to do some redesign. So we have a purpose of our redesign team. This is the question that our redesign team worked with second semester. How might we develop a framework for ongoing learning and support for teachers to create a culture of meaningful collaboration, resulting in innovation and better outcomes for our students. Because professional learning for our teachers should have direct impact on learning for our students. So therefore, we should have better outcomes. And this redesign team question came after our first meeting with the teachers from all of their feedback and what they shared with us. You will see here a timeline of our process. We started back in the fall of 2020 with discussions with Mr. Nathan O'Neill, who you know works in our innovation incubator. Dr. Sabrina Suber and I had planning conversations with Mr. O'Neill throughout the fall. Those conversations continued into the winter and started laying the groundwork on how are we going to share this with our high school principals. Because again, we were in the middle of a global pandemic. So we had our discussion with our high school principals in the winter that we really wanted to bring a group of teachers together to start looking at, is PEP effective? If it is, great. If it's not, what do we need to do? So our high school principals started constructing their school teams. Then we moved into second semester, early winter, early spring, late winter, early spring, and we began the design work with Nathan O'Neill leading it. Our school teams all came together here at R2I2. We did have a group that decided to meet virtually with us, but all of our meetings had the opportunity to be face-to-face or virtually. And throughout the spring, we came up with 3 proposals that were presented to the entire redesign team. What we have found is our work is not complete. So we are going to continue this redesign work into the fall of 2021. And we have asked our high school principals now to join our redesign team to continue to research and analyze new design options. Who made up the redesign team for the district? Each high school's assistant principal for instruction was a member. Each high school had 2 teachers, along with Blythewood Academy, R2I2, and the Rogers Center. Our content specialists from the high school level also participated, and as I shared earlier, Dr. Sabrina Suber and I were members as well, and we tried our best to be silent members. As I shared earlier, Nathan O'Neill led this work. The work that the redesign team did over the last several months was the teachers that were actually on the committee. The APIs went back to their school and had several interviews with a variety of teachers within their building, asking them a variety of questions. What do we need to do for next steps with PEP? What do you need as a professional educator to continue to grow your craft? Nathan also took us through the design thinking strategies. How do you start with a product and change it? Or do you start completely over at ground zero? There were several research articles and videos that teachers were asked to watch before coming to a particular month's meeting. So they were able to ask questions and to share thoughts at that upcoming meeting. As I shared earlier, the redesign team developed 3 proposals, and they presented those proposals to the redesign team. We found at the end of our work in second semester is 3 major points have come to the top. 1, teachers want blocks of time to collaborate within their school, but also across schools. Some schools have 1 Kate teacher, right, and there may be another one at the other side of the district. Mm-hmm. So it's not very feasible for those 2 teachers to drive and meet somewhere. So with Google, with Zoom, again, that's one of the things coming out of the pandemic. How can we utilize online opportunities to collaborate? Also, our teachers asked for a flexible structure with high expectations for staff. And the last point that came out was consistent professional development. We hear a lot about teachers don't want a one and done. One topic one day, another topic the next day. So these were the 3 main feedback points that came from the redesign team members. And again, as I shared on the previous slide, they went out and talked to their colleagues at their schools to gather this information as well. Some other highlights from our discussions second semester. Again, teachers want strong, intentional structure with flexibility. vertical and horizontal alignment. They want to work within their grade level, but they also, teachers teaching senior English also want to work with teachers that are teaching freshman English. Collaboration as a tool and product. That was very important in the conversations we had. And the team wants to make sure that when we redesign PEP, that it aligns with the high school core beliefs, our Richland 2 strategic plan, and of course, the all-important profile of the South Carolina graduate. What's next? This fall, as I shared earlier, we are going to continue with PEP as it is on Wednesday mornings with the high school teachers. Our high school principals are going to be joining the redesign team officially, and our redesign team is going to be working on looking at national trends for professional development. Nathan O'Neill is already doing some research, schools in South Carolina, schools in the Southeast, and across the country. What have they learned coming out of COVID for professional learning for teachers? We hope in the spring of 2022 that the redesign team will have recommendations for senior leadership and hopefully implementing those redesign proposals in the school year of 22-23. That brings me to the end of my report. Thank you so much, and I'll take any questions you may have.
Thank you, Ms. Atkinson, I'm sorry. Any questions from the board?
Madam Chair.
Ms. Mackey?
Ms. Atkinson, thank you for a thorough report. Every question that popped into my head seemed to have been answered on the next every question that popped into my head seemed to have been answered on the next slide that popped up. So thank you for your thorough report. And I just want to appreciate, I had a question as to when you'd be looking at doing PEP, if it was a content thing you were concerned about or a timing thing. I know as a parent of 2 students in the district, you know, that Wednesday morning thing on high school was something to consider, but I'm glad it's the same time frame and you're just considering content. But thank you for the thoroughness of that report. Yeah, every question that I had, I just actually struck through as you continued. So thank you, Mrs. Atkinson, and the people who work with you on this initiative.
Okay, Dr. Scott?
Yes. Once again, thank you. You guys have been so innovative, especially with the high schools. So thank you so much. I really appreciate that. The only question I have, coming from Richland 2, working at the high schools before, PEP is so beneficial. I truly enjoyed having that and glad to see that we're going to maintain that. My only question and concern that I had, and of course, this was many years ago when I worked at the high school, is what are we doing for our classified staff? I know during my time, again, which was many, many years ago, are we providing that professional development for classified staff? Because I think it's just so important to be able to do that because it gives them the skill set and the experience to be promoted to other positions. So have you guys considered looking into our support staff and our classified staff to see how we can incorporate something for PEP? Because during my time, we really didn't have a whole lot, except for making copies or doing some internal things like that. So I'd like to hear about that.
Thank you, Dr. Scott, for that question. Normally, our support staff gets professional development from human resources or a specific area that they are serving. But that's certainly something I can add to my notes and take back and take that to the redesign team since principals will be involved.
Okay. Board, any other questions? Okay. Okay, thank you so much, Ms. Atkinson. 9.4, update virtual program. Dr. Davis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair and members of our board, and again to our viewing public and those that are in attendance, we have Dr. Emily Manigault, who serves as our director for our virtual programs, will come before us this afternoon, or this evening, to share information regarding our virtual program and update. Dr. Manigault.
Good evening, Madam Chair, honorable board members, and Dr. Davis. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with each of you this evening regarding Richland 2's virtual school program. I'm so happy to be here to talk about something I'm so very passionate about. As a former history teacher, I'm going to have to start with a brief history of the virtual learning in Richland 2. Many members of the community likely have the impression that virtual learning in Richland 2 began, like it has with so many districts across the state and the nation, with COVID-19. I am proud to share that Richland 2 has a very rich history of virtual learning that dates back to the early 2000s, when the first 2 one-to-one programs in the state of South Carolina began in our district. The eSchool program at Ridgeview High School allowed a cohort of students to learn with laptops, and the Classroom of the Future at Killian Elementary School gave fourth grade students a similar experience with desktops. The next year, the district took an unprecedented step by developing the Richland 2 virtual school program, which provided online learning opportunities initially to high school students, with middle school students added in subsequent years. 2002 saw the expansion of the one-to-one opportunities with the development of the iLink Magnet program at Richland Northeast High School and the expansion of the Classroom of the Future program through iTech classrooms in all of our elementary and middle schools across the district. By 2010, the district's commitment to one-to-one was evidenced in policy and in practice. And by 2013, Richland 2 was proud to be one-to-one in grades 3 through 12 across the district. I truly believe that Richland 2 should be proud of the premier work that was done in the early history of virtual learning, not only for our district, but in the state and in the nation. Fast forward 20 years later, and Richland 2's virtual school program encompasses 3 opportunities for our families. The eSchool program, which was developed this past year to address the needs of families during COVID-19, our 2 decades-old virtual middle and high school program, and our Pathways to Promotion program, which was developed just a few years ago. And I'm going to speak about each of those individually. I'm going to begin with the eSchool program. The eSchool program was rapidly designed and implemented in about 2.5 months, about this time last year, as discussions began in June 2020 to address the needs of families who were concerned about their students returning to face-to-face instruction in August of 2020. When those discussions began, I think it's important to note that we were not planning to we were planning to go back face-to-face. We did not think that we were going to have the situation that we were faced with in August. After initial discussions, we worked really quickly, and in July 2020, we hired 20 teachers and a counselor for the program. With the initial limitations of the program design, we gave priority to students and their families who found themselves, had medical conditions that made returning to school a concern for their families. We conducted a lottery similar to the process used by the district's Magnet Choice program to select the students that were involved. By the end of the 2020-21 school term, Richland 2's eSchool program served 566 students for the entire school year. And we did have some students that, once we moved into phase 2 and 3, did return to their schools under certain specific conditions. And as the graph shows, we had 184 elementary students, 206 middle school students, and 176 high school students. During the 2020-21 school year, all of the schools across the district worked very hard to plan events to keep students connected in the wake of the pandemic. This proved to be a challenge in many ways, but we found methods to engage our students similarly to the strategies that were used by elementary, middle, and high schools across the district. You see just a few examples on the slide. I would like to take a moment to thank everyone who supported our program. We are housed here at R2I2, and so that took a lot of folks to help us, and it really truly took a village to get this done for our 566 students. The second program that I'll share this evening is actually the oldest virtual school program in Richland 2. In fact, this year we are celebrating our 20th anniversary, and we're very excited about that. Depending on who you ask, Richland 2's program is either the first or second of such programs in the state of South Carolina. Of course, we choose to claim first place, but there is a district in the Low Country who thinks they hold the title. Oops, sorry. Back. Over the past 20 years, Richland 2's virtual middle and high school program has supported the needs of students who need acceleration and/or remediation, as well as our homebound students and students with other special circumstances. We have also had the pleasure of supporting schools with staffing needs. This past year, we continued to support our middle and high schools, the Richland 2 Charter High School, and partnered with Midlands Technical College to provide 2 dual credit options in the medical field to ensure that a number of students who needed these courses could complete and secure their college and career readiness certification. During the 2020-21 school term, 720 students across the district completed over 1,100 individual courses with 92 Richland 2 teachers serving as adjunct instructors for our program. As we move into the next school term, we are excited that we will continue our partnership with R2I2 to provide 2 scheduleless courses, Python programming and 3D design, to students in the district who may not have the ability to travel to R2I2 due to schedule conflicts at their zone schools. Previously, we've worked with R2I2 to provide proficiency-based courses that give students the opportunity to demonstrate their knowledge and move quicker through their coursework in order to gain opportunities at advanced certifications. It is our hope that we will continue to work with that program to give students even more opportunities through the flexibility that virtual learning offers. The final program that I'll speak about this evening is our Pathways to Promotion program. This program was developed in the district 3 years ago and gives students who have disciplinary infractions serious enough to warrant expulsion an opportunity to remain in a position for grade level promotion. As a benefit of participation, a student's expulsion is held in abeyance until they have successfully completed the program. The mission of the Pathways to Promotion program is to provide a caring and structured educational environment for students who've been expelled that will enable them to earn high school credits, identify career goals, develop positive life skills, and prepare them to return to their zone schools ready to achieve academically and avoid behaviors that resulted in their placement in the program. Students who participate complete at least 2 courses, are provided wraparound services, participate in work-based and or service learning opportunities, and set goals to successfully transition back to their traditional setting. Although the primary focus of the program is to provide a positive experience for students, a secondary benefit to schools is that the student will return to them on target for promotion, and it positively affects the school's graduation rate. So as we look forward, I'm clicking this thing really quickly, as we look forward to 2021 and beyond, we are excited to share the future of Richland 2's virtual school program. Next year, we are excited to announce that students in our elementary virtual program will be assigned to Lake Carolina Lower Elementary School and Lake Carolina Upper Elementary School. This decision was made to provide as much support to our elementary teachers and students as possible. Our team is excited to work with Dr. Norton, Mr. Williams, and their teams. The current enrollment for the elementary program for the 2021-22 school term is 142 students. After the 2021-22 school year, the virtual program will be phased out. The virtual elementary program will be phased out. Next year, our secondary program will follow the school schedules of Muller Road Middle and Westwood High School. Unlike the elementary students who will be assigned to the Lake Carolina schools, our middle and high school students will be registered at their zone schools, but will be served virtually. Currently, there are 508 students enrolled in the secondary program, 234 middle level, and 274 high school level students. The secondary program will continue as a choice option beyond the coming school year. So this chart just shows our current, or as of June 30th, enrollment, and comparing from this past school year and this year. We have a growth of 84 students that are currently have applied. There have been some changes even in the last few days as families are making choices about the upcoming school year as vaccine availability increases, and that's affected, has had some effect. So as I continue to discuss our program, I want to assure the board and our community that all 3 of our programs are associated with the virtual school program will continue with the high standards and expectations that have been established in Richland 2. We will continue to work within Richland 2's e-learning framework, which was developed last summer. Richland 2's e-learning instructional model reflects the existing Richland 2 instructional model that is expected in all classrooms across the district and includes the incorporation of effective digital e-learning tools, AVID strategies, and e-learning best practices. It is our expectation that when anyone, whether it is a member of our staff, our families, or our community enters a virtual classroom, our virtual classroom spaces, they will see the same high expectations and rigor that would be seen in any other classroom in Richland 2. Based on the lessons learned this year, we know that virtual learning is not the best choice for all students. However, we also learned that many students thrived in the virtual learning environment. As we move through the upcoming school year and beyond, it is our hope that Richland 2's virtual program will provide a choice for students and families for which virtual learning is the best choice. Next year, we will focus attention on families who reside in Richland 2 who are currently served by one of the many virtual programs that exist outside of our district. These are our families, and we want to serve them in Richland 2. As I conclude this evening, I would like to share something that was done by 2 of our teachers this year to describe our work. One definition for the Latin term virtue is the achievement of great things. If you add the letters A and L to the end, you get virtual. We all have achieved great things this year, and the faculty and staff of Richland 2's virtual school program will continue to achieve great things and build upon the legacy of excellence in virtual learning that has been established thus far. We truly believe together we can do virtually do anything in Richland 2. So thank you for your time, and I'll take any questions.
Thank you for your report. It was very thorough. We really appreciate that. And I still say we were number one. We're gonna claim it. Okay, at this time, are there any questions from the board? Dr. Scott?
Madam Chair, I have a few questions. Dr. Manigault, thank you so much for that report. Just a few questions for clarification.
Yes, ma'am.
One is for the virtual classes and students, do we have a waiting list just in case there are some parents who may not have been able to get in initially and students leave? Do we go back and maybe call students from a waiting list?
We do for the students at the elementary level because that there is a fixed number. We're really trying to keep the class sizes to what would be the same in any other elementary school. And so we do have a waiting list of families who applied during the choice process. And so we're working through that list. As parents make a different choice, if for whatever reason, then we use the lottery process. So we went through the lottery and we have those students numbered.
Okay.
Yes,
and last question, the pathways to promotion. I know that was something that birthed out of Dr. Davis, and glad to have that. But my question is, what is the limited number for that? Because I know we have a very low number.
Yes,
and when I look at the numbers that we're putting in through pathway to promotion, and then I'm looking at recommendation for expulsions, how, or maybe Dr. Davis, you can add to that too, how are we selecting these students? Because we're not reaching that goal of the numbers that we have, although we don't want to because we want them to be successful in their classrooms. So if you can just elaborate a little more on that for me.
I can answer the question.
Thank
Yes,
you.
ma'am. The first year when the board approved it as a pilot, there was a limit that was set. So we met that limit. Since then, really the number has reflected. We interview those students, but they have to provide their own transportation to get here. So what we have found is, for the most part, that has been one of the issues. Other issues that we have had is that students may make an appeal and end up at adult ed. And so there are other reasons, a number of reasons. Transportation, I will tell you, seems to be the greatest issue because we expect them to serve them for the wraparound services. We require the counseling, and simply some families don't have that ability. But yes.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Let me get Ms. Agostini, who I think was next, and then I'll come back to you, Mr. Manning.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Ms. Agostini.
Thank you so much for your presentation and also for all your efforts this past year. I know you're worn out and worked out, but thank you for all that you did. I want to piggyback on Dr. Scott's question. I'm concerned about the wait list for the elementary kids' schools. So that was an offer during school choice, and people choiced in or asked to, but then we were not able to provide it to them.
Yes, so we had opened the application for choice 1, and then we actually for elementary reopened, sent out information to families shortly thereafter the choice, and asked families to sign up. But of course, we have just one course per grade, one class per grade level at this time. And so there are limits when we have 20 students, K1 and 2, and 25 in grades 3 through 5 at this time.
So were people denied after choice 1 the opportunity to go into virtual school for the elementary?
We had a second elementary choice that was between choice 1 and choice 2, where every family, all families in Richland 2 that had students that were currently enrolled in an elementary school in Richland 2 were given a second opportunity.
Do we have any class sizes that are large enough that would warrant or where we could offer another class on that wait list?
We do have a substantial wait list with regards to that, but our resources currently are 1 teacher per grade level.
Okay, and I'm going to throw it out there, just because the pandemic is still, very much on the forefront of everyone's mind. I'm happy to walk around without a mask, but I respect those that aren't. I was a big advocate to get the kids back in school to give them a choice, but I'd also like to honor that for those that want virtual school because they're worried about the pandemic, that they be offered that opportunity to have the virtual school extended for them. That's just my opinion, but that's what I'd like to see happen.
I certainly will take that back to the group that I'm working with at the elementary.
Thank you. And then just out of curiosity, the increase for middle school and for high school for next year, that seems like there's tremendous growth there. What do you attribute that to?
I simply think that there are a lot of parents that are still concerned about the pandemic, exactly what you said. And so I think that I think there's a lot of fluctuation right now because we also have parents who feel a little bit more comfortable. So we have parents that have contacted us to remove their students from the list. I think there's just some uncertainty with regards to that. I also think that the greater issue is we're not offering virtual, of course, through the schools this year. So the families whose students were successful virtually but stayed connected to their zone schools, a lot of those parents applied for the virtual school because that is the option this year. It will not be offered through their schools.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Manning.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Are these synchronous or asynchronous classes?
We have a combination. So our virtual school, e-school program is synchronous. So they run a schedule similar to our schools. Students will be expected to follow the attendance policy. There won't be, we do not anticipate using, for example, the DPA, the digital attendance this year. Students will be expected to report virtually. However, our 20-year-old virtual school program has always been asynchronous, and it will continue to be asynchronous. However, teachers do have office hours, so students are able to reach out to their teachers each week. Each teacher has to have 2 hours of office hours weekly so that students can contact them.
Okay, and I certainly appreciate my other board members' comments about expanding the program. But I think this board has been vigilant. Some of my board members that are asking for this to happen. Also, we have limited FTEs, and we have to manage those FTEs, particularly for a program that's going to go away. And so, what then? Do we add FTEs to meet a need, and then what do we do? How do we repurpose those? Do we have the FTEs available since they're already all placed within the school? So I understand that there are some challenges to meet, and of course the board also low classroom sizes is one of our board priorities. So I know you have some challenges to try to figure all that out and do the math, and with unfortunately, we have lots of school options that families don't get into. That I get those calls. I think we all do every year around choice time, and it's very difficult when somebody doesn't get what they want. I know I've been there as a parent. It's a struggle. So, but thank you for all your work.
Thank you.
Okay, any other question, board members?
I just want to clarify, so that the waiting list is only for elementary school, correct? So that would be 5 or 6 teachers?
The waiting list is currently for elementary school. At the secondary level right now, we are working on class schedules. The rollover just happened. And so we do have some secondary parents that are waiting, but we anticipate that we'll be able to accept those students.
Thank you.
Okay, Dr. Davis.
I just want to, again, thank you, Dr. Manigault. To our parents that are viewing and those that are here, we just ask that they continue to be patient as we work through these numbers. This is fluid. As you have seen from Dr. Manigault's report, administration made this decision, a support decision, as relates to the number of teachers for our elementary school based on the fact that we had a substantial number of students unenrolled from the virtual program. And so we have to make a projection, as we do every year when it comes to staffing in our schools and our programs based on the trends that we see. had we seen the trend trending upward, we would have made probably a different decision or recommendation would have been made, but there was a substantial number of students who have withdrawn from the virtual program. And from the sentiment from the public during the pandemic, that particularly at the elementary level, that level was not working for many of those students, was a constant statement that was being shared with us through emails and participation. And so once we saw the numbers trending down based on the data of our student enrollment, as well as the information that we were receiving throughout the year about the effectiveness and the importance of social interaction in schools, we had to take all those things into consideration as we make those decisions. And as Mr. Manning stated, it does sometimes impact those unintentionally, but where we can help them, we will. And so we'll just stay vigilant and on the waiting list. And if the trend continues to go the other way, and students are given an opportunity to take advantage of vaccinations, hopefully those parents who are waiting could possibly get in before the school starts. And we are making some considerable advancements in ensuring that our classrooms are going to be safe. So that may also encourage those parents to enroll those students into that face-to-face instruction 5 days a week. So I just want to put that on the record for our community to know those are things that we have to take into consideration in making these decisions. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, we're going to move to 9.5, policy revision. Dr. Davis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, members of the board, and to our viewing public and those that are in attendance, we have the policy revision proposal that's going to be presented by our Chief for Academics, which is Ms. Nancy Gregory. This is the proposal for policy IKADD, credit content recovery.
Right. Good evening, Madam Chair, board members, Dr. Davis. Per the State Department of Education's Uniform Grading Policy, also known as the UGP, districts are permitted to provide content recovery opportunities to students. District administration is proposing that our current policy, IKADD, be revised to include the provision for content recovery. And that's it. I have been your shortest presentation of the evening.
Yeah.
But if you'd like me to elaborate.
No.
I think he wants you to say something.
I can tell. The definition that is there is the definition that comes out of the UGP, just so that we have consistency and equity. And again, it's providing additional opportunities for our students.
Dr. Davis, you have something you want to say?
I have nothing to add to that wonderful, short and sweet policy. Thank you so much, Madam Ms. Gregory.
Questions from the board, Mr. Manning.
Madam Chair, so do we currently have content recovery programs in the district, or?
We do not have formal content recovery programs. We have had a lot of inconsistencies in different programs from high school to high school. And during the pandemic, it really came to light that we needed the consistency. And so we have worked with high schools to come up with some procedures and things that we put in place this year. And so we are finalizing and fine-tuning those to put in place for next year. Again, I think you hear kind of a theme as our team has talked through the evening about providing consistency and equity for all of our students.
I really like the concept. I mean, it seems like it would have to be extremely effective and really targeted to what the students need. So I'm really excited to see this come to our schools in a consistent way.
Okay. Dr. Scott.
My question is, we've had the content recovery, credit recovery, even when I worked in the high schools. But my question is, during that time, a student can only make up to a 70. So regardless of what they did, the grading cannot be over 70. So if that's something that we're still planning, and then also it was not a part of their GPA, but I don't see anything included in this policy. And so I'm just wondering, Are we still going to stick with that number of 70 and not have it be a part of their GPA?
That is what Ms. Atkinson has worked with high school APIs and also Principal Zone on the procedures. And we will be sharing those with you in a future board brief, but they're fine tuning and working on those procedures.
Okay, any other board members? Ms. Mackey?
Just thank you. I know there has been so much discussion about the consistency of these two and marrying the two. So it just shows that there's some listening going on, and I appreciate this. Thank you for sharing with us.
Okay, I'd like to just say that thank you for doing this, because I know when we were in this pandemic, there was a lot of concern about the credit recovery and credits like that. So to have this in place would reassure parents that we are hearing them. We are concerned about, we know that there was some loss in instruction. We know that. And we want your children to catch up and be on point. So I'm just glad that we're taking the time to work through this, because I know how important this is. So thank you. Dr. Davis, did you have something that you want to say? Any other board members on this? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. 10.0, agenda items for the next meeting. Dr. Davis.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, members of the board, and our viewing and a public that is in attendance. Our August 10th, 2021 board meeting is a regular scheduled board meeting. The board will meet to conduct its regular scheduled business items. The call to order an executive session will begin at 5 p.m. with public session beginning at 6:30. We have our executive session items: superintendent's evaluation, student appeals, student admissions into the district's adult education program. Once we resume from executive session, we'll have our inspirational moment and ask for the approval of the agenda, followed by the approval of the consent agenda. We'll have our first public participation and then voting on executive session items. This includes our student appeals and student admissions into the district's adult education program. We'll have old business action requested, which will be the approval of policy IKADD, credit content recovery. Under old business, no action requested. We'll provide an update on ESSER 3 funding. Under new business, no action requested. We'll have the superintendent's highlights, followed by the military community liaison report and a capital improvement update. This will be followed by our agenda items for the August 24th board meeting, and we'll ask for approval of those items, followed by our second public participation, board and superintendent comments, and then if we need a second executive session, we'll have executive session 2 and voting on items in executive session 2 if needed. If not, we will ask for an adjournment.
Okay. May I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Madam Chair,
Ms. Mackey.
I move to approve the draft agenda items for the August 10th, 2021 regular board meeting.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seconded by Mr. Manning. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. Oh, let me change. Sorry. I need to change my vote. I hit the wrong button. Okay. Okay. Okay, it's approved 5 through 1. Okay, motion carries. Okay, next on the agenda, we have public participation 2, which we have none. So now we will go to 13.0, board and superintendent comments. Let's start with Dr. Scott.
As always, just want to say thank you to all of those who presented tonight. Great presentations from each and all of you. Want to say thank you to Dr. Franklin. You did an awesome job over there. They always say a jack of all trades, master of none, but you mastered that. So thank you so much, Dr. Franklin. And also want to just welcome Attorney Carla Hawkins to our team. Glad to have her on board. She will be our new legal counsel. So I'm so excited to have an opportunity to work with her. And I think the district is going in the right direction. So thank you and have a great night.
Okay. we'll go to Ms. McFadden.
I just want to say for the young lady, she's not in here now, but who was over the virtual program, I want to say thank you so much. My kids participated in it. They did pretty well. Some of them struggled a little bit, but just going through that whole program, and I'm grateful that some students are able to go ahead and continue that, because a lot of students did thrive. And I will say the SOAR program is really good. My kids actually come home and want to talk about school during the summer. So I want to say for everyone who had a hand in that, thank y'all so much. We appreciate it. And for everyone here, thank you for all the work that you have done, and y'all have a good evening.
Okay, Ms. Agostini.
I want to thank our presenters this evening. Congratulations to all those who were recognized. And again, thank you so much to those who came out to speak tonight and participate in public participation.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Mackey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to wish, because it's still summertime, our parents, teachers, administrators, people who took the time to be here tonight, those who got to be here tonight. Thank you all for being here, and please be safe. I wish you a pleasant remainder of your summer. Focus on mental health and self-care as you can. People tend to take care of every other aspect of their life, but mental health and self-care is so important. And just because I know he's not going to say, oh, and Dr. Manigault, I didn't have any questions, but I wanted to thank her for her presentation. Thank you, Dr. Davis, for sharing all of the district accomplishments. I know those aren't all, those are his highlights. So there's so much going on, which is to be commended in such a tenuous time. And because I know he's not going to say anything, congratulations to our superintendent and for the district for accommodating our changing the board meeting, as he was awarded the National School Public Relations Association's 2021 Bob Grossman Leadership in School Communications Award. It is a huge deal. The NSPRA and Intrado, the award sponsor, presented him with the 2021 National Award yesterday in New Orleans, Louisiana. One of the quotes they made about him is that Dr. Davis understands the importance of communicating well and communicating often. His team of communication professionals helps him deliver honest, impactful messages across a variety of mediums, and I can attest to that. Finally, it's worth noting that Dr. Davis is the first superintendent in the history of South Carolina to win the Bob Grossman Leadership in School Communications Award. So congratulations, Dr. Davis.
Okay, Mr. Manning.
I want to say, Madam Chair, you did a fantastic job first time out.
Thank you.
It's yeah, I'm definitely smiling bigger in this seat than I was in that one. So thank you everybody for a great meeting. I love all the innovation, the consistency that we're working on in the district. I know it's a lot of work, but it's great time spent, and the results will be well worth the effort that's going into all the initiatives that we have going on. So thank you. And it's kind of nice to be back in this room again. I mean, it's a little bit of kind of coming back to some normalcy and return to pre-COVID in whatever way we can. So otherwise, that's it.
Thank you all. There's a couple of things that I wanted to say. Thank you for making the transition to chair easier, Mr. Manning. Your leadership was incredible during a very, very tough time. So I have to give it up to you. I got to clap for you for that. Because I mean, you didn't have any hair then, and you really don't have any now. So thank you for that. I appreciate that. And to Dr. Davis, we're trying desperately to hang on to you, and they're trying desperately to take you, because now you're going all national on us and everything. So we're super proud of you. We are super proud of you, and we're honored to have such a leader in you. Thank you. Thank you very much. We appreciate you. I'd also like to say thank you all for allowing me to be the chair this year. I'm super excited about chairing this board because I see where we can go. I know what we can do. It's been a very tough year and a half. It has been. And, we have to collectively work together. I'm a person that likes unity. We can agree to disagree, but it's how you do it. So let's work together as a unit to try to come to resolutions that help everybody. one other thing that I want to do is I want to bring back community a little bit back into this room. So I've asked Ms. Mackey and Ms. McFadden, instead of our wonderful speakers that we have had for inspirational moments, I want to bring the children back into inspirational moments. I want to see our kids from the various districts, schools, come in and sing a little bit, come and dance, whatever you do, come on, talk to us, whatever you do, because I think it's important that they have an opportunity to highlight all the things that they're doing in the various schools. So I'll be asking Ms. Mackey and Ms. McFadden to kind of chair that up, and we're going to let our kids have a little bit of shine time. I'm an educator, so that's what I like to do. I like kids to be back into the mix. That's who I am. So we're going to do that. And I want us to, as I said, it's very important. Again, now y'all know we're not going to always disagree. Y'all have seen that. We know that. It's not going to always happen. But we're going to work very hard this year to work as a unit. We're going to work very hard. And sometimes that means I get what I want. Sometimes it means it does not. But at the end of the day, the children, I love to say this because it's true. The children are watching. The children are watching. So let them watch and learn how to grow together as a unit. And with that, thank you, and forgive all the mistakes. Now, I promise you all I will get better than this at this. I am super nervous tonight because this is the first time, but I promise I'll come in like a whiz. Maybe not next time, but I'm coming.
Madam Chair.
Thank you, Dr. Davis.
During the board superintendent comments, does the superintendent get to say anything?
You get to say, I was coming to you. You're gonna wrap it up for us.
I'm just teasing.
You already, you
Yes,
like
ma'am.
to talk about
Thank you. I do want to take an opportunity to say congratulations to our new chairperson on a job well done for your very first board meeting. I do want to also take the opportunity again to thank our board for agreeing to move our board meeting from yesterday to today to allow me to go out to New Orleans to receive the recognition on behalf of our community and most importantly, our staff. Because I just serve as the representative of our school district. And yes, I have ideas of how and what I want to communicate, but it's the individuals that are in this room and outside of this room that make that possible. The message communication is important to us as a school district, and we believe that we should continue to work with our community to not only share information, but to receive information. And you're absolutely right, Madam Chairwoman, we will not always agree on things, and because you don't get your way doesn't mean we're not listening, but we have to take a lot of different facts and opinions as well as information into consideration when we make those decisions, and so it's important that we have an opportunity to do that. I want to again thank our team today for all their wonderful presentations, from the grading task force, from the professional early planning, reevaluation, virtual programs, as well as IKADD. And as our former chair has eloquently pointed out, you see an effort in consistency. But you also understand that it's important for us that everything that we do starts and ends with students in mind. And we have to ask ourselves the question about how are the children? That response is that all the children are well. One of the ways that we do that is through our work with equity. And what does equity mean for us? It simply means that we want to provide our students with what they need to be successful. And whatever they need to be successful is equity. Equity is if a student is on the 10-yard line and only needs 10 yards to score, our playbook for that student looks different than a student who has to go 90 yards to score. We can't have the same playbook for the students who have to go 90 yards. They need a little bit more variety of plays offered to them, a little bit more support, a little bit more blocking of things that prohibit them from achieving, a little bit more protection and care, sometimes a little bit more kindness, some more social emotional support. So our goal is to simply provide our students with what they need when they need it. That's what equity looks like in our school district. We define things in Richland too. We started that when we started with Premier. We defined Premier. And we said being Premier was holding true to our values of learning, character, community, and joy. We set up 5 principal practices for our school district. To be data informed, not data driven. To be diverse and multicultural and inclusionary in all of our practices. That includes all of our students, all the gifts and talents that they have, every last one of them. To communicate, to have good partnerships. Those are our principal practices. And we want to make sure we have a culture and environment that we can sustain so that we can attract talent and retain talent to our school district so that we can be achievement oriented. That's our district. No one can define that for us. We did that in 2017. So our responsibility as a community is to stay mission focused in partnership with our community. We prepare our students to be global citizens of tomorrow. Global citizens of tomorrow, prepared to do 2 things, lead and excel in their chosen pathways. Stick to that. That's the only definition you need. That's what being Premier is, and that's how we know that Premier starts here. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Dr. Davis. Okay, item 14.1, executive session 2 is not needed. 15.0, not needed. 15.1, not needed. We are now at 16.0, adjournment. May I have a motion to adjourn?
Madam Chair, make a motion to adjourn.
You
Second.
said that fast, Mr. Manning.
Yes, ma'am.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded by Mr. Manning, also by Ms. Mackey, seconded. Any discussion? All in favor? Raise your right hand. Motion passes. Thank you. Have a good evening.